Welcome, teacher friend. I'm Lori.
And I'm Melissa.
We are two literacy educators in Baltimore. We want the best for all kids, and we know you do too.
Our district recently adopted a new literacy curriculum, which meant a lot of change for everyone. Lori and I can't wait to keep learning about literacy with you today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Melissa and Lori Love Literacy Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. I know we say that every time, but we are talking to a teacher, and we love teachers. So I was in a Wit and Wisdom Facebook group, and someone asked the question, what do you do for your special education students, and what do you do for your below grade level readers? So I'm reading an exact quote from the Facebook page, and our guest today, her name is Katie. Her response really stood out to me. And so I reached out to her and I said, can you come talk about what you just shared on the podcast? And so Melissa and I are really excited to have you today. Katie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we're very authentic today. You're in your classroom, so if we hear speakers in the background, we're just going to roll with it.
We know how that goes. So, Katie, tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, like you said, my name is Katie Overstreet. I am a 5th and 6th grade special ed teacher, and I co-teach in a literacy classroom. So I have one block a day of 5th grade and one block a day of 6th grade, and then I do resource in the afternoon with my IEP students. This is my 5th year teaching here. I teach at Comanche Middle School in Comanche, Iowa, and my 6th year teaching overall. I taught 3-year-old preschool for a year first.
Oh, what a change, because now you're in 5th and 6th grade. Maybe the 3-year-olds prepared you for that, right?
My son just turned 3 yesterday. So I can't imagine teaching a whole
bunch of Elliots running around, Melissa. What would you think of that?
I don't know. One is enough. One is fine.
So Katie, I just want to share how much your response stood out to me in, the original post that I had seen, because it felt like sometimes in some of the other posts that I was reading in response to this quote, I guess I should say responses in response to the post, that there were some excuses being made, kids can't do grade level work. But what really stood out to me about your response is that you believe that your kids can do it, and also that you are servicing a group of students that likely has some higher needs. So I'd love for you to share what you were thinking when you typed that, a little bit about, your students and your experience, because you do use Wit and Wisdom. So we're very excited because I feel like we're talking the same language. Not everyone that we have on uses Wit and Wisdom, so we're psyched to talk all things today and really zero in on that.
Awesome. Throw out all those Wit and Wisdom acronyms.
Yeah, we can do it. We can be like FQT and all the way.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So, I don't know. Coming in 5 years ago as a resource teacher, I didn't really know what I was getting into. And then the more I got to know my students, teaching 5th and 6th grade, I get to loop with the kids. So the kids that I have in 5th grade, I keep for 6th grade. So by the end of 6th grade, we know each other pretty well. And most of the time, you just need to figure out whatever that kid's barrier is. Maybe all the thoughts are in their brain, but they can't get it out on paper. So you need to figure out how to get the thought from the brain, into a gradable, observable, tangible, that they can share with you, So if that means that they're just telling it to me instead of writing it down in a graphic organizer, then that's something that needs to work for that kid. So far, eventually, by the end of the 2 years, I feel like I've been pretty successful in figuring out what each kid needs, that they're able to access the core texts, they're able to answer the questions. It might not look exactly like everyone else in the gen ed classroom, but we get there eventually. And they're all capable of that. All kids are capable of that. Mm-hmm. So it's just like a core belief of mine, and I refuse to give up on any of them, even if we have to sit next to each other for several periods in a day to get through. We're just going to be good friends by 8th hour, you know?
That's awesome. Katie, I'm curious about, like, I mean, I love that you have this like core belief. That's amazing. And I also see like the perspective of teachers who are like, I have students who are, I'm just going to make it up, but reading 3 grade levels below, and here's this really tough grade level text. I don't know what to do. And can you give some examples specifically around, like you said, like helping them to access the text? Like if they are reading below grade level, like how do you help them? I know there's different things for different students, but what are just some examples of things that you do with your students?
Sure. So being a 21st century teacher is really to my advantage. You can find almost anything on the internet. So every core text that we've used so far, which this is our 3rd year of implementation, and we've only made it through the first 2 modules because we started the year that COVID hit. So we didn't finish much the first year. The second year we were hybrid the whole time. So this year is going more as normal, but anyway, so of the core texts that we have used, I've been able to find audio versions online, or they all have we're a 1-to-1 district, so all of our students have Chromebooks. And so I just have the accessibility functions turned on so they can select things to be read aloud to them. So there are PDFs of all the texts available on their Google Classrooms, and they can just kind of choose. And, my classroom is 4 doors down from my co-teacher's classroom. So if we're in the gen ed and it's time to read, they know that they can just get up, go to my room, grab their headphones off my wall, come back and get to work when the other kids are finding their book and flipping to the page, so it's just, we've set up these routines. They know where their resources are. And I haven't really had a whole lot of problems with using them appropriately. I think that kids want innately to be successful. And so when they're not fighting against the method of receiving information, it's a lot easier to be successful. So
that's great. I love the idea of setting up the routines to help them be successful. And I'm wondering, is there a text that has stood out to you or your students where they've really engaged with and used the different methods that you've supported them with? And I'm going to go ahead and just say scaffolds that you're supporting them with.
Yeah. I think Bud Not Buddy is really fun because most of the read aloud versions I've found on YouTube, people have a lot of fun with the slang that goes on in that book and the different dialects. And I think the kids, it kind of brings it to life for them a little bit more. And I think it makes it, even for any kid, gen ed or special ed, I think it makes it a little more interesting to listen to when you're hearing someone else talk the way that Bud is talking or the way that Lefty Lewis is shortening or hyping up words or.
Yeah. I really like that your intent is to keep the rigor for every student, and that you're trying hard to do that by keeping the text and by, we've discussed previously the task. And so I'm wondering if you might be able to illuminate a little bit more, kind of shifting from text to tasks, and talk us through what it looks like supporting your students with grade level tasks, grade level work.
Sure. So if it's something that's high writing, most of my students, I create a lot of the workbook handouts on Google Docs, and they have them in their Google Classrooms, and they're able to type or voice type their notes instead of writing them, because that's a barrier for many of them. Spelling, being able to go back and read their own handwriting isn't something that a lot of them can do. And so using their computers as that tool, that's something that we do quite a bit. They all have a testing accommodation that when we're doing a grade level assessment, a classroom assessment, a state assessment, whatever, they can be in smaller groups, they get longer time, they get breaks, all of those things. So on assessment days, which we use the FQTs as assessments. And so on days that we're writing FQTs, instead of the class period or 2 class periods that the gen ed students get, my kids get it until they're done. And we just go to my classroom and There are little areas in my room. I'm kind of tucked in a corner of the building. And so they can go out in the hallway to talk to their computers. They can listen to it again. They can, kind of do whatever they need. And then for notes, I think specifically like the web catchers when we're reading Out of the Dust in 6th grade they're a big stumbling block for a lot of kids that I've worked with. They just don't know what to do for that. And so we, as a team, I'm on a team of 4 teachers. We created a graphic organizer that is a web catcher. And so for my students, quote unquote, during our resource time where it's just me and them, I put that up on my projector and we do the notes together. And maybe we need to write down 8 things, but you need to find one that we'll share all around. And you need to find one example that we'll share as a class. So it's kind of like you're still showing me that you can do the skill, but now it's not so big that you don't even know where to start.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And for those listening, we did use a Wit and Wisdom acronym. We did say FQT. That's a focusing question task. So do you want to explain when they do a focusing question task, just so that anyone listening is like, well, what does that mean? Do they do it daily? Do they do it every other week? Do they do it once a module? What is happening?
Yeah, so they're like every 4 or 5 lessons. And we have a block, but we do some other things within our literacy block, not just Wit and Wisdom for the full 84 minutes. And lessons are normally about 90 minutes. So we usually take 2 days to a lesson. So every 2 weeks or so, we're doing an FQT.
And how do your students do with them? I mean, they're not easy all the time. There's some tough tasks.
It is tough. I have found if I give like a topic sentence starter, so like the first one in 6th grade is what makes Bud a survivor. We're reading Bud Not Buddy. We've read the first 6 chapters and they need to tell me how Bud is a survivor. If I just give them Bud is a survivor because, and then let them finish my sentence, it seems to go a lot better. And so they're still proving to me that they know how Bud's a survivor. They still are able to go find it in the text. A lot of times I find I just kind of give guiding questions. Okay, so you just told me that Bud is a survivor because he's really brave. When was he brave? Well, when he, and they fill in the blank of a time that they remember him being brave. Yeah, that's good. Nice job. I'm pretty sure that was in chapter 4. Why don't you go find a quote to prove that to me, that he was brave when he did that thing? Okay. And then they go do that, so it takes time. And, if they haven't read the book, not all kids do their homework. If they haven't read the book, it takes a little while longer because now, okay, you didn't read chapter 4. Go listen to chapter 4 and then come back to me and let me know if you're done with that. But yeah, so it takes time, but bit by bit we get there. And the beginning of 5th grade, it's a disaster. It takes forever. I think that first FQT is 5 sentences long. It takes us 3 days usually, to get 5 kids to write 5 sentences each.
I'm going to say though, Katie, I was having this conversation with a colleague. Somebody was asking me a question about expectations for like beginning of kindergarten and then like beginning of 2nd. I was like, I don't know. I feel like the beginning of any grade is pretty much a disaster. Like it does take 6 to 8 weeks for kids to like adjust to being back in school.
I totally agree with you. But then by the end of 6th grade, my students are blowing me away with the beautiful paragraphs that they're writing about, comparing the 2 main characters of the 2 core texts in the first module. So yeah, I don't know. It's so fun to watch that growth. And now this year 3 of implementation, my current students have had Wit and Wisdom since 3rd and 4th grade. So, it's building, and our 5th graders came in this year and they knew all of the parts of a paragraph. That had never happened before, So I don't know. It's been really fun to see the progress year to year.
Yeah. And I think I was going to ask you a totally leading question, but I'll just make a comment instead. You can choose whether you want to respond to it. But I was just thinking back to your original, like your core belief, right? That you believe in these students. And I wonder if they haven't had teachers that had that core belief about them, that they can do this tough work, that they might not think that they can coming into 5th grade. But like, if you are showing them over these, tough task after tough task that they can, I would imagine that is rubbing off on them, right? That I don't know.
I hope so.
I'm sure it's skills that you're building in them as well, but I think there's probably a little bit of the confidence that you're building too.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the TNTP. That is one of the findings of the TNTP study, that holding high expectations, and you're doing that.
Yeah. This is a little off topic, but a little going along with what you just said. So I'm the literacy special ed teacher for 5th and 6th grade. There's a math special ed teacher for 5th and 6th grade, and we started together. We're the same age. Her name is Kelly, so it's Kelly and Katie.
Super cute.
And we get along super well, and our kids are super annoyed by us. So we share all the same students. We split the roster, and so she has them some days of the week. I have them some days of the week. We have them together sometimes. And so at Load Your Lockers night this year, he's a 7th grader this year, but we had him for the last 2 years. He comes walking in with mom, and we were like, oh, hey, so-and-so, hey, you're gonna miss us this year? And he was like, no. And we're like, yes, you will. And so then he smiled and shook his head and rolled his eyes and walked away. But I tell you what, that kid has turned the corner back to the 5th and 6th grade hallway to say hi to us a few times this year. So
I bet.
we're annoying. I think they know that we're never going to give up on them. And then that turns into, we're not going to give up on your academics. You're going to get the thing done because you can get the thing done. So let's just do it,
Yeah. And you're going to learn the thing.
Yeah.
So this is a total side note, but I jotted it down earlier. How long are your class periods? I'm so curious. Always when we talk to teachers, especially middle school-ish teachers.
Yeah, we have 42-minute class periods. We have 8 periods in the day, and then we have like a 34-minute what I need now at the end of the day.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a homeroom catch-up time.
I should start putting that on my work calendar, a win time for myself. Yeah. And what do I need now?
I love win time. I love it.
I've never heard of that. Anyway, that's a little divergent thought, but
he gets a block. So 6th grade, we have them first and second hour. So we have them for 84 minutes.
Okay.
Plus passing periods, we have them for 88 minutes. And then the same thing with 5th grade, 3rd and 4th hour.
Okay.
So
that's good. That's helpful to know. I always feel like if I were listening, I would want to know, like, okay, she said that she was able to, accomplish this in this amount of time. Like that is always such a hot topic. Like, but I also hear you say my students get extended time. My students, are able to work on a task until they're finished it, which does consume a whole lot of extra time, I'm sure, as you're, and especially using the audiobooks, probably more so than, another classroom teacher that is taking up time.
Definitely. Yep.
Okay, I'm curious about, I think co-teaching with another teacher is always it can be great, but it also could go very wrong because it's just two teachers trying to work together and have a relationship of their own. I'm wondering about like how you work with your co-teacher, and if there's are there any and is there anything set up in your school for you all to be able to work together in any way? Any structures in place?
That's a good question.
Sure. Yeah, that is a good question. So we're a PLC school, professional learning community school. And so we have team planning time together that's like protected time with administration twice a week. And so we get 84 minutes a week together to plan. But we also have common prep time. So the 4 literacy teachers, so there's 3 gen ed and me for 5th and 6th grade, we get together every day to plan and make sure that we're all kind of on the same page. Our hope is that you could walk into any of the 3 literacy classrooms and the same thing is happening. We're in the same place in the curriculum. Our students are doing the same thing. No educational lottery is kind of what we talk about.
Oh, I like that.
So, yeah. So regardless of which lit teacher you get, you're going to be getting the same information, the same everything. So I am with one of the 3 literacy teachers for 5th and 6th grade. This is our 2nd year working together, and she's phenomenal. She's a new teacher. This is her 2nd year teaching, but she asks fantastic questions. She has really, really good ideas on how to help every student access the curriculum. And we get along really well. We're both young mothers. We're both, we have similar interests and similar, we're both literacy nerds. So I really love working with her. We're friends socially, but then we come to work and we're getting to the point where we're finishing each other's sentences. We had a student last week, they were working on something independently. So we were talking about what we were going to do with the next class period. And, we're talking and chittering and whatever. And one of our students raises his hand and he said, "Have you guys been friends since the old days?" And we were like, the old.
So
no, like we're not that old.
But so it's just, I think, I don't know, maybe this is weird. It's kind of like a marriage. Like you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to trust each other. You need to have each other's back. Like you need to be a partnership. You need to want the best for the kids and you need to be able to do that together. And so I've had really good, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, I agree. Yeah. I think that you need to have that core belief. I feel like you set us off on a really great path by stating that up front. Your core belief, if, someone who you're co-teaching with doesn't also held that core belief, then that could be a huge hindrance. And it sounds like it's just a really great match for you in terms of like your co-teacher has that core belief. So you're setting that foundation. Like you're not starting from the bottom. You're like already built a really strong foundation and that you have this core belief about kids and students in school and consistency across classrooms. And you're all willing to work toward that goal, that core belief, and then move forward from there. That's cool. I love this.
I feel like that's true for my entire team.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's beautiful. No, I know there's like a lag. Probably because it's so windy here today. Is there anything that you do during that time together that makes it really impactful in terms of prepping or preparing for teaching your students with high quality materials?
Sure. So I think it's kind of building on each other. As I said, this is our 3rd year of implementation, but every year our team has changed. So we had the team of 4 our first year, and that team, our administration gave us 1 day a month to really get together, dig into the curriculum. We never had like official professional development from Great Minds when we adopted Wit and Wisdom. So we just kind of sat with our curriculum director who chose the curriculum, and she was kind of walking us through it. And we were diving into the standards and what activity goes with which thing. And so that was really good. While we were teaching it, we were doing that once a month. We would like look at the next arc, the focusing question arc. So the next 4 or 5 lessons when we would do those. And then the 2nd year, we could sit in planning time when half of our team was new. So it was me and 1 previous teammate and then 2 brand new ones. And we could say, well, when we did this last year, we found, and the first year we taught with complete fidelity, we didn't change a thing. The 2nd year, we adjusted a little based on our students and what they can do and what we felt was necessary. And now this 3rd year, we have 1 teammate again. So 3 of us were here last year and we have 1 new one. And so it's just kind of like, I just think it's encouraging to trust the process. And this might feel repetitive, but I promise it's coming back. And it really spirals. And I know that he doesn't get that now, but we're going to summarize again in 4 lessons. And so he's going to get it by then. And so I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Yeah. Thank you for that.
I'm thinking about you've been doing Wit and Wisdom. This is your third year. So you've had at least 1 year where you didn't have Wit and Wisdom, you had something else. We always talk on the podcast about like, and I think we've had some people talk about this too, of like the thing you can do when you have a curriculum, right, is like, here's something already done. I don't have to go find the texts. I don't have to go make worksheets. I don't have to go, come up with what they're doing, but I can really focus in on okay, here is what's here. Here's what my students need to do. I can figure out how to get them there. I'm wondering, like, as someone who's living it every day, is that true?
100%. That is 100% true. My first 2 years here, we had power standards that we decided as a team of 5th and 6th grade literacy teachers. So we looked at the Iowa core and we said, we're going to make sure our students are proficient for sure in these 5, 6, 7 standards, and then the rest will be supporting. So we'll touch on them, but so then planning was looking for activities that went along, that went along. We planned for hours a day to have all of the materials. And so often we would be sitting looking at a standard and picking it apart and, okay, well,
what does this even mean?
Fifth grade RI 5.1 says that they need to quote accurately. 6th grade RI 6.1 says that they need to cite accurately. What's the difference between citing and citing? Like, what should we be showing our 5th graders that's different from our 6th graders? And why does it matter? And so we would just, kind of beat that dead horse forever.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
So often in our meetings, we would say, just tell us what you want us to teach. Mm-hmm. And then we got handed these Wit and Wisdom teacher manuals. And I was like, hey, they're telling us what. And then we hated it. We did not buy into Wit and Wisdom for like the first probably good 3 months of our first year of implementation.
This is great. Like, this is like true confessions. Keep going. Go ahead.
It really is. And, I want to say it took until about Thanksgiving of our first year to really, our whole team to be on the Wit and Wisdom bandwagon. And because we would be looking at the lessons and we were so used to creating everything to get our students to proficient, where we would be looking at the lesson and we'd say like, well, that's a silly way of teaching that. I think that we should pull in this activity or this strategy to get there. Yeah. And then we'd turn the page or we'd get to the lesson three lessons from now and we'd be doing the thing. And it's like, okay, we don't need to be adding our own. Let's the mantra that entire year that our curriculum director, our administrator, our instructional coach, they're all like, trust the process, follow the manual. You're not a puppet, like trust the process, and we promise it's good. It's best practice. It's research based. And so it took until about Thanksgiving, but by then I think we all kind of bought in, and since then it's been so good. I love it, and we saved so much time planning.
Oh. I know. When you were talking about the standards, my head was in my hands because I just was like, PTSD from when we did that and had those conversations. And oh my gosh, like what is the difference between quoting and citing?
Well, my first year teaching too, they got us together to like vertically align our power standards. And so they got all of the ELA educators from kindergarten through 12th grade together in the elementary school gymnasium. And they had us write down our power standards. And we found out walking around all those big Post-it notes, every single grade level was teaching main idea and details and theme. Every single grade level, those two were power standards. So it's like by 12th grade, these kids have heard about theme 13 times. Like,
right. And they're like,
all year. Yeah. Well,
also, I remember that in Baltimore. Like I remember looking at some high school. I was like, we're teaching theme in high school as if they've never heard this word before.
Yeah. But again, that's why high quality materials matter, because there's so much spiral. I mean, you mentioned it, Katie, like over the course of a year, but there's spiral from kindergarten through 8th grade through 12th grade using high quality materials. And you can't see that as a teacher with your students in 6th grade teaching. Like, it's impossible unless you are able to really zoom out and I don't know, maybe sit down with a curriculum director, which I don't know any teachers that like have the time to do that in their
day-to-day. Has the time for that.
Yeah. And power standards kill me too, because it's just like they're not, again, it's not a thing. Like, in absence of knowledge, there's no power standards. Right. There's not like a teach theme every year and then, oh, we're going to get so good at theme. Because I mean, if I'm reading something on stem cell research, I may not be able to tell you the theme. Like, that is the reality of it.
Well, definitely not, because that's an information.
I know. I didn't think about it. Thank you, Melissa. Because we're recording this one later in the day. I'm not my best in the afternoon. Give me a better example. Fix it for me.
Just make it I don't know, central idea.
Thank you.
A theme.
Thank you.
So funny. But anyway, back to, so we got
it's okay.
This is
this is our confessions time. Katie had confessions. We have confessions.
What happens on this one? But what I love is, I mean, all that you talked about, Katie, of what you do to help your students be able to reach the goals in wisdom. Like, you have the time to do that because you're not doing all that other work that you had to do prior. It's so important.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think a lot of I'm so grateful for my team and my administration. I have always felt supported and like I have worth in this building, and and I know that that's not true for every teacher. And so I know that I'm just incredibly blessed by the team that I'm on and the administration that I have. My current principal, his first job was my job. He was a special education teacher for 5th and 6th grade. And so he really protects my time with my students, and he understands when I say, hey, I heard about this thing. Could I give it a try? And well, sure, go ahead, So I really appreciate all that support. And I feel like I've been able to be so successful, and my students have been able to be so successful because of all the support that we have and the time that we've been given to dig into the curriculum and ask questions and talk to the people who picked it. And, so that's been good.
It's so interesting because I feel like the people who we have on, like you, who are super energetic about, teaching with high quality materials and who are willing to be learners in this workspace, always have great people around them, or some element of good people around them. And also we're given some gift of time, like have the time to do that. So I'm like, I just keep thinking, if any administrators or district leaders are listening, those are really important things that I've noticed as trends across lots of our guests.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's great. Katie, do you have any other reflections about teaching wit and wisdom that you want to share? Stories from your students or things that happened?
Anything you're proud of? I feel like you could share the mic is yours.
Okay. Oh gosh. I don't know. I love just the little moments of oh, they are listening to me. I don't know what it is. A majority of my IEP students have been boys. And so one time I was helping a student clean out his locker, and it's a 4.5 foot tall locker, and you couldn't even see any of the inside metal because of all the papers and sweatshirts that he had crammed into it. You opened it and just a pillar fell out. So we're going through his locker and we're cleaning it out, and he pulls out these notes, and we're towards the end of a module, and these are notes from earlier in the module, and he pulls them out and he was like, oh, I should probably keep these, right? And I was like, yeah, I think you should probably keep those. He goes, yeah, I might be able to use them for an FQT or something. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. You should put those somewhere safer than crammed in your locker. And, so for listening. So that's one of my favorite stories. And I don't know, just when, well, today in class, the students, my sixth graders, were bemoaning that they couldn't find their notebooks under their chair, in their chair baskets. And I was like, oh, well, we had a Socratic seminar with fifth graders yesterday, so we kind of moved the room around, just kind of look around. I'm sure it's close. And one of the sixth graders goes, oh, I love those. Do we get to have any of those this year? And I was like, what? You love them? You wait. I think it's next week. And she was like, yeah, we get to. So I don't know. That just makes me happy, because I think that when kids, especially middle school kids, don't like something, they're a lot more vocal about it, with the groans and the, this is stupid, whatever. But when they like something, they're not quite as vocal about it. And so when I hear those little like, oh, I remember what you said, or, oh, I really like that, or, oh, this is kind of fun. I love that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love so much about Wit and Wisdom is, at first reading through it, I thought it was just like a sit and get, and we're just going to be standing at the front of the room with this manual telling them, sorry, it's passing period, telling them to, telling them what to do, or like just giving them all this information. But then as we start teaching it, they're up in their think, pair, sharing. They're getting together with other kids in the room. We have these Socratic seminars. Our first Socratic seminar was not good. Our second Socratic seminar was fantastic. The kids that never speak up in class, when they're now just sitting with their peers, come up with some really great ideas. And so those are super fun to watch. And I've now lost my train of thought because I'm thinking about Socratic seminars.
That's okay. I was actually wondering why the first one wasn't as great as maybe the second. I was surmising as you were saying it, but I'd love to hear from you.
I think the first one we ever did, where we're asking them to just talk to each other, they didn't know what to do with that. They all just kind of stared at each other, embarrassed. But by the second one, we built more of that classroom culture of it's okay to say something and to agree or disagree or whatever. But back to what I was saying, I remember now, we have like the chalk talks where they get to get up and draw things all over the place. And our sixth graders did a graffiti wall last year, which they thought just from the name was really fun. So I don't know. I just like all of the different things that Wit and Wisdom pulls in to keep things interesting for the kids.
Katie, I wish we could like gift you with, if I had some power, I would totally gift you with like a Wit and Wisdom professional development, because I feel like you missed out on so much. Like, they're called instructional routines. And I'm like, I want you to do you would just be so engaged, especially because you have context. You're not like going in like, oh, I just got this manual and let me turn to page 1. Like, you've actually taught it. So I'm going to see if we can gift you with something, even like a virtual one. That would be amazing. You and your team.
I would love that. Yeah, that would be amazing.
All right, I'm putting it on my to-do list. I'm going to talk to someone and see what we can do here.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought of another story. Can I share one more?
Yes, please.
Tell it all. Yeah.
Okay, so we were reading Out of the Dust, which when I was reading the core text for Module 1 the summer before we implemented, it's Thunder Rolling in the Mountains for 5th grade, and then which is about westward expansion and how Native Americans were kind of pushed out from the perspective of the Nez Perce tribe. And so it's sad. There's war and violence, and It's sad. And then 6th grade is all about the Great Depression, so it's Bud Not Buddy and Out of the Dust. Also super sad. So I finished.
Out of the Dust kills me.
Me too. So I finished reading these 3 novels in the summer, and I was like, I get to spend the next how many months just talking about these super depressing topics. But so in 6th grade, it was our first year. We just had read, spoiler alert, we had just read the poem where the mom dies in Out of the Dust from the burn, and the baby brother dies too. And we closed the books. We had read that one aloud in class, and we closed the books, and one of my 6th grade girls sits back in her chair and does this deep sigh. And I was like, hey, are you okay? She was like, it's just it's so sad. She had all these emotions that she had gotten from reading a book, and she was a professed disliker of reading. Like, she didn't enjoy reading, and now she's sitting there in all of these emotions that she got from reading a book, and it's giving me goosebumps right now. It gave me goosebumps then. We're transforming text. I love teaching these 3 novels now. I did not enjoy reading these super sad novels over the summer out of context. Teaching them and showing all these emotions and all of this like strength of humanity is really empowering for me, and more so for my students who are just 10, 11, 12 years old, trying to figure out who they are, who they want to be. And now they're reading these stories about kids their age going through these wild challenges and hardships, and it's powerful, and I'm honored to teach it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then that module is all about resilience, right? So you're not even like dwelling on, yes, you're talking about how sad and terrible these things are, but also like, right. How do you come back from them? Right. Yeah. And that's something that they can sink their teeth into.
Last year after learning online, and we were really able to tie hardship and resilience back into what has your last year looked like,
Yeah. Yeah. There's not a child out there who I wouldn't want to be resilient. Let's say person.
Yeah, there you go.
That's beautiful. I've almost cried, and I'm not a crier, so thank you for.
So we always end by asking for a piece of advice, which I think is interesting because Lori found you by giving advice to people on Facebook. So I don't know if it's the same advice that you want to give, but if you want to share some advice with teachers, it could be specifically about wit and wisdom, or just implementing curriculum, or working with students with IEPs, whatever it is that you want to give some advice about.
Sure. Gosh, I don't know. I think if it's just specifically about wit and wisdom, I still all the time say, trust the process. To my students, I say it now. We're going to get there. Trust the process. I'm making you do this because it's going to help you later. And so I think that is a really solid piece of advice that we got from our curriculum director. But just generally, and in teaching, I feel so successful because I know that I am wholly supported by the people around me. And so if I want my students to be successful, I need to wholly support them, and I need to meet them where they are, and I need to give them the things that they need individually to get where it is my job to get them. And so just loving them and being here for them and giving them the tech tools that they need and the strategies that they need, and also just a quiet room if they're having a moment. All right, go sit in my comfy chair and think about it for a minute, and then come back to class, and we'll get to work. And just love your kids, love your students, do what they need, and they'll be successful, is what I've found.
Yeah. Oh, your kids are so lucky to have you.
They are.
You have that. I love my job.
It shows. Thank you for today. It's so amazing. We podcasted with a teacher yesterday, and we podcasted with you today. And I just feel like we're so lucky to have these windows into classrooms with teachers who are knowledgeable and, willing to be vulnerable and want to learn, and are just love their students so hard that you're showing up for them, wanting to grow and be the best teacher that you can be. And you both showed that in different ways, but it was so evident today. So thank you so much. I've been really grateful for this conversation.
Me too. This was awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to talk to you. Great to meet you, Katie.
I know. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening, literacy lovers. Be sure to visit our website to subscribe to our newsletter and podcast. It's literacypodcast.com.
Yep. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Most of them are at Literacy Podcast.
Yes. And please, please, please reach out to us. Melissa, what's our email address?
Melissa and Lori at literacypodcast.com is our email address. And we love getting emails from you all. And Lori
we
and
really read them.
Yeah,
and
we really
respond.
Fun. We love when you all reach out and we get to have conversations with you. So please email us.
Let us know what you're thinking about literacy, what you're thinking about
ideas for us to podcast about.
Yes, ideas for podcasting, anything. We love to hear from you, what you liked, what you want. Yeah, we're here for you.
Mostly y'all are asking questions, which is great.
Yes.
We don't mind that either.
Yes. We're so glad you're here to learn with us.
Thank you, everybody.